Hey team, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will write a table valued function that can parse a person's whole name and separate it into its component elements. Are you ready? The source code to this video is available on my GitHub account. Let us begin with create function fn, that's short for function, split full name. Notice we have one input parameter. That all starts with the @ symbol and then full name, and it's an n varchar 100. Now this is a table value function, so we have to format it like this. Returns, please don't forget the S. This is the name of our variable and this is the data type. We'll get back to our fields in just a moment. And then we say as. I normally put this little section in here so when I come back in 6 months, I can execute it real fast and I know what I did. And then begin end. Our table value function will return 5 columns. Notice I'm going to return the full name and then last name, the suffix, the first name, and then the middle. Notice the data types. Now before we start coding this up, let's take a look at a name. Doe space Jr, comma, and then first name, middle initial. Notice the comma is in between the last name and kind of the first name. So what I normally do in these type problems, I look for a pattern and I see a pattern. And what I'm doing is I'm going to call this right here section 1 and this section 2. Let's do that. As you can see here, I added 2 more fields in my return type table. I did this because as we're walking through the program, we're going to be using these as debug fields. And I want them to be easily executed when we execute the function. Then here I declared 2 local variables. This is where we will take Doe Jr, put that in section 1, and then John W into section 2. Big problem, now 2 small problems. Earlier, I told you section 1, section 2, I use them as debug. Notice when I say insert into my table type, then I'm actually going to put out section 1, section 2. At the very end, we'll remove these from our insert statement, but right now we're just going to do debugging. Now let's look at section 1. As we go across, notice I'm going to get the left of the full name and then char index. So it's saying, hey, inside of this field, where is that comma? So you just count the positions over. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the comma is on the 7th place. Now when you take the left of full name for 7, start here and go over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can we both agree that we don't need the comma in there? So notice here I said -1. So when this is going over now, we just get that. And then I RTRIM, that means remove all the trailing spaces from the right, remove all the trailing spaces from the left. Now you're saying, I don't see any. Okay, you don't see them now, but now you do. What just happened? Well, I just came in there and I put a bunch of spaces in between all that. Someone will try to break this program and send in some things. So look here. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This right here will find that position on 18. And now we're going to say take the left of full name for 18 for 17 characters. So just up to there. So from here to there. Now our trim is going to remove all these spaces. Left trim will remove all these spaces. So we'll be left with just this. That's what section 1 will do. And in just a moment, when we run this, you will see that I will show you the full name, this text, and then I will show you what section 1 is. Let's do that. First, we have to build this. Let's do that. So execute. And now remember, I told you this is a good thing to have. So here we're going to execute. And then notice here, I got my full name. And then notice my section 1, I trimmed it up on the front and the tail. And notice we just have Doe Jr. That's section 1. Section 1 is all done now. You're ready to build section 2? Well, section 2 is just another part of this big program. So notice we knocked out this side and now we still have that comma there. So instead of using left, we're going to use substring. And substring is saying, hey, here's my string. Now, where do you want to start inside of that string? Well, this thing is saying, go get the char index. So it's going to count all the way over here and find this comma. That's where it's going to start. And I'm saying, hey, I don't want to start there. I want to start at the next character. I want to start here, okay? I want to start there. And then I'm going to get the full length of this string, and then I'm going to subtract where this is. And guess what? that's going to leave me this set of characters plus 1. And that's going to go into section 2. And section 2, we also know is up here in my return data type. So let's go ahead and build this, and then let's execute this. Let's see what our output looks like. So notice now we have section 1 and section 2. So we took big problem, full name, and now we have 2 small problems. Now we have finished with section 1 and 2. Now we're only going to use these. We're not going to use full name anymore. Now to use just section 1 and 2, I'm going to need some other variables. Notice that what used to be a semicolon, turn that into a comma, and then offset all the way down to a suffix. Now on line 36, notice here we're saying set at last name equals section 1. Well, section 1 equals this whole zone right here. Now what happens is, like, maybe 85% of the time it's just a last name. It's not a junior, senior, first, second, third. So this assignment is kind of like saying, hey, I'm section 1. And then if and only if there is a space in there, you know, like something in between these 2 characters and this comma. Now, just because there's a space in there doesn't mean it's going to be a suffix. These are the suffix that we are going to support. Now, I'm sure there's a 6, 7, 8, but I only went up to the 5th. You can add them if you'd like. And if it is one of these, guess what? I'm going to say suffix equals that variable that we just declared here, and that's going to be assigned to suffix. Else, that last name is just the full name for, you know, like if they have a space in there, last name is just going to get the full name. This is kind of optional because we have already done this up here. Let us save this and execute it. And now let's look at last name and suffix. You can see now when I execute line 19, here's our full name. Notice that we have just the last name and we have the suffix. So section 1 is all done. Let us proceed with section 2. Section 2 was the first name and the middle name. So what we're going to do is we're going to say set offset equals the char index. Go find this character. Now the problem with this right here is, see how I got these spaces in the beginning? Well, that's no good. I want to know in between here. Now for me to do that, what I need to do is I need to LTRIM, RTRIM this whole section. I need to get it back to just this. So let's remove all these additional characters, and that's where we're at right now. So I've removed the outside and the inside to this, and now I can say, is this character in there? And yes, it's right here. So then offset is right now 5, and is 5 greater than 0? Yes. So now we're going to take the left and we're going to trim all that up for the offset -1. So this return 5 minus 1 would be 4. So John would go to first name. To parse out the middle name, we will have to use the substring function. The substring function has 3 parameters. The first is the string, the second, the starting position, the third, for how many characters. I'm going to teach you a technique where you can extract using the substring from a specified starting position to the end of the string. You can simply provide a value that is large enough to encompass the entire string as the length. While this may seem unnecessary, it is a common workaround that is used to avoid the error message that the length parameter has been omitted. Here we're building the middle name, so we get W in there. Now, if the offset is 0, there was no space in there. Can you imagine it's just John? So the offset would be 0, and now I'm going to trim all that up, and I'm going to put that into just first name. Here is my return data type. It's a table, and now we got first name, last name, suffix, first name, and middle. Okay, let's make sure middle is my field name. Okay, it's middle. And then I'm going to be using the variables, full name, last name, suffix, first name, and middle name. And then this statement is required. To get that table to come back to the end user, we have to say return. So let's go ahead and try to build this. And now let's try to execute this statement right here. Notice here was our full name, and notice for the first name John, middle name W. So like we just did, a bunch of spaces in and around this. Let's see if that still works. So let's go ahead and rebuild this, and guess what? Everything is still working. And there you have it, team, how to parse a person's whole name separated into its components, and then return that table from the table valued function. If you have any questions or comments about this video, please leave them below. Hope to see you back here again real soon. Take care.